Follow this step-by-step plan and you'll lose weight faster and more easily than 90% of beginners because they just don't know this stuff. I've been a trainer for 10 years and the number one piece of advice that I have for you is to get your plan in place and execute on it 90% of the time. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be consistent. By having daily objectives, you can complete them, get that momentum to carry going forward into consistency, and that's what's going to get you the majority of your results. Let's dive right in. I break this all down in more detail on how I apply it to my clients and then how we can tweak all of these things. There's going to be a link in the description and the pinned comment. That's another one of my free videos here on YouTube. Okay, so first is going to be exercise. This is the least important, but at the same time, kind of the most important. I'll describe exactly what I mean by that. As we go, you'll kind of see it take shape, I think. But I think the reason that it's the most important is because it tends to lead to a lot of positivity. It leads to a lot of things that people carry forward with their habits. So for instance, if you miss your workout that day, a person is much more likely to, screw it, I'm just going to go ahead and eat pizza or whatever. Not that pizza is necessarily a bad decision, but you get what I'm saying. It kind of snowball effects into some more negative decisions. And if a person works out, they tend to have the energy and the willpower, more self-efficacy to actually, make better decisions. And so with consistent, again, 90% of the time making good decisions, doesn't have to be 100% of the time, you're going to get a lot of your results. And obviously exercise is involved in that. Now, there's two types of exercise that you're going to be focused on. And that is going to be, number one is going to be weightlifting. We want to keep your muscle. That is one of the primary objectives in a weight loss, at least should be in a weight loss journey. And I think that's where a lot of beginners, this is kind of already what really sets you apart from people that don't, emphasize this, is a lot of people they just want to lose weight. They're not so much focused on losing body fat, they just want to lose weight. Either thinking that losing weight is losing body fat, which isn't necessarily wrong, or that it doesn't matter as long as I lose weight, I don't care if I lose a little bit of muscle. Muscle, first off, it's not a little bit of muscle, it's probably a lot of muscle. At least 25, 30% of the weight lost tends to be muscle, especially if a person isn't caring about, the end result. But your muscle is essential for keeping your metabolism high by the end of your fat loss journey, and to make sure that you are not having to eat like a bird at the very end of this fat loss journey. Also, of course, there's the whole quality of life thing later in life, and you might not be concerned about that right now, but I promise one day you will be, and having more muscle is going to be really good for you. The second type of exercise you're going to be focused on, of course, is going to be your cardio. Now, the cardio is the best way of losing body fat. Long term, you're kind of putting things into, an investment with muscle, because you're going to be burning more throughout the day by having more muscle, and that really adds up. But short term, and we don't all want to be losing weight for 5 years. Short term, cardio is definitely going to be the way to go. You're going to burn more calories, and although it's not crazy amount, if you burn an extra 300 days, if you burn an extra 300 calories per day in cardio, I mean that's exceptional. You're gonna reach your goal. So here's how I would break that out. I would do 2 days a week of total body, 2 to 3 sets. At first, you can start with just 2 sets, and then build up to 3 sets per muscle group. So keep it nice and nice and simple. And then 2 additional days per week of cardio. If you could be working out 4 days a week, that would be ideal. 2 days of cardio, 2 days of lifting. I think the more often a person works out, the better in terms of their mental well-being and staying on their plan. There's more of a schedule. But if you have to condense them down to 2 days a week where you lift and then you do cardio, that's fine too. You also could take the steps route, which is something we're going to talk about next, if you just don't have time for cardio, but I really, really suggest trying to get some of that cardio. Okay, now steps is not the holy grail. It's not a magical solution to weight loss, but I think it's important. In my dial system, I describe this more. It's important to keep it actually where it's at. So I describe them as dials, in that video mentioned in the description in the pinned comment, where we can dial it back, dial it up, whatever. And so for steps, what I have my clients do is find a baseline, whatever that is, whatever your phone says. Let's say it's 5,000 steps a day. Add a little bit to it and try to get that. And then you keep that consistent. Now, we can always add that as you get deeper into the diet and it gets kind of harder to lose body fat. You can always add to those steps. But at first, especially as you're increasing your calorie burn throughout the day with exercise and eating a little bit less, we don't want to accidentally compensate by moving a lot less throughout the rest of the day. So your steps will keep you nice and consistent, and then the cardio and the diet is what's going to, burn that fat instead of you accidentally making up for it by not moving a whole lot. Like I just said, at the end of a fat loss diet, or really throughout, you could continue to add 500 or something steps per day on a weekly basis, and it won't take you long to find out, you're walking your maximum amount of steps. For a lot of people with a desk job, that's going to be somewhere around 8,000, 9,000 steps. And for people that are more up and active, that could be, 10, 12. For me, it's like 14 to 16. Some people that have like, factory jobs, they'll work, they'll walk 20,000 steps. Okay, next is going to be your food logging, tracking of protein and calories. Now, you don't have to food log forever, but I highly suggest you food log at least for a month or two, at least 2 weeks, because you're going to get an idea of the calorie density of foods. So this food might not be worth it, and this food, wow, I can eat a lot of it and I can stay on my goals, and it's really going to help you with informed decisions. But also is going to be the protein. You want to keep your, as you're tracking your calories, you're going to be able to track your protein at the same time. They just go hand in hand. So as you track your protein, you're going to want to try and get roughly 1 gram per pound of your ideal body weight. So if you're 250 and you want to be 180, eat something like 180. I always round up just to 200, just make something, easy. But whatever it is, just, 1 gram per pound of body weight of your ideal body weight is going to be fine. Then as you are, food logging, you're going to find out, this is harder than I thought. And I'm going to give you a tip right now. One, I'll encourage you with, this gets a lot easier. But also, people always food log with cups and spoon, tablespoons and stuff like that. Get a food scale and log almost exclusively with the food scale. Not many things need cups and tablespoons. So with peanut butter is always my favorite example because it's so calorie dense. You want to be careful with it, and there's so little peanut butter in a serving that you want all of the serving. So if you scoop out a tablespoon of peanut butter and you kind of like level it off, it's hard to tell if that's actually a good amount of peanut butter. You can put the peanut butter on the scale, press tare. Now it says 0, right? And then as you scoop it out, you'll see on the food label, it says 32 grams is a serving. As you scoop it out, it'll say minus, whatever, and you'll scoop it out until it says minus 32. With that, you have an exact serving of peanut butter. You can do that with so many things, with anything that's in like a tub like that. So like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, peanut butter, but also like instead of counting out 17 chips, tortilla chips in a bag of chips, it'll say grams in parentheses right next to it. A lot of sauces even have grams. For some reason, ranch doesn't, almost ever that I've seen. But ranch is roughly 17 grams for a tablespoon. Olive oil is 14 grams for a tablespoon. And, you figure these things out. And then it's really easy to food log because you're just using the food scale. I literally leave it on my counter all the time and, just use it all the time. It makes things so much faster. Now, the recipe book, and I think I talk about recipes. Yeah, talk about recipes next. So I'll talk about it now. So I have a recipe book, totally free. You can just find me on Instagram, Aaron Trainer Fitness. I'll, DM me and I'll send it to you. But in my recipe book, there is actual grams for servings instead of cups. So if we do a pot of chili, I'll tell you, I can't remember what it is, so don't quote me on this and look at it in the recipe book, but it'll be, 410 grams is a serving. And so then you just put the bowl on the food scale, press tare, scoop out enough chili until there's 410 grams in the bowl, and that's it. It makes it so much easier than measuring out cups and dirtying extra dishes and things like that. Speaking of recipes, you're going to want to get into recipes as soon as you can. Now, at first, I wouldn't, make such a big deal of this. It could be a simple recipe like a sandwich, putting some ingredients together that make a sandwich. Same thing with oatmeal. You could make, a package of oatmeal and add some PB Fit to it or some protein powder. Whatever, that basic recipes, single ingredient foods. I'm going to have, 4 ounces of chicken breast and, 137 grams, or I don't know how many grams would be a good serving off the top of my head of potatoes and, a serving of vegetables, whatever. It could be that as well. But I want you to get into recipes as soon as you can because recipes to me, some people can eat single ingredient meals and everything, and that's fine. I can't. I can't just eat, a protein, a carb, and a vegetable every single. It drives me insane. So, like tonight, right after this video, I'm going to be making a Mexican lasagna. I think that's going to be added to it might already be in there, to the cookbook. So if you don't already have the cookbook, find me on Aaron Trainer Fitness on Instagram. But that's going to be in there. And so it's lasagna that's high protein and lower carb and, lower carb. It's not low carb. But it allows you to eat food that is delicious, high protein, very filling without having to guess and all that stuff. Although protein is very important, very, very important to your goals. It's one of the dials that I use in my dial system. Calories is king when it comes to fat loss. If a person isn't quite getting their protein, although it will make it harder because you'll get free calorie burn from protein because it takes energy just to digest the protein, makes you more full, so you naturally eat less, although it'll make it harder if you literally ate a low protein diet, high carb, moderate fat, you could still lose weight as long as you're in a calorie deficit. So that's why tracking your calories is very, very important as well. Okay, and possibly the most important thing for a beginner, a lot of people I will see, they get into this thinking that this is just how, nothing's going to go wrong. Foresee that things will go wrong. Look into the future and foresee that something's going to happen. And whenever you fall off, whether that's holidays or whether that is, a birthday or whatever, just a high tension at work or whatever, it's okay. A short period of time, a week of you falling off the wagon is not going to be a big deal. And if you can take that attitude and apply it to a day, where a day of you going hard, let's say your birthday, Super Bowl, whatever, it just isn't going to make a difference. If you get right back on it, it's going to be totally fine. Also, if you find that you're thinking about food a lot, this is just getting really hard, and the diet isn't going as well as it once was. Maybe you're not losing weight as fast. You're just kind of groggy. Everyone knows that feeling in a diet. Whenever you reach that, let's say that's week 8 into the diet, please consider, beginners for some reason run from this, but please consider a diet break. Going, 4 weeks, 2 weeks at least, where you're just eating at maintenance calories makes everything feel better. Gives you a refresher. We do this with work. Whenever work just starts getting to us, we take a vacation and we come back. And although vacations sometimes make the feeling a lot worse, it does kind of give you this sense of, okay, I can, go back to the grindstone here. And it's the exact same thing with your diet. You want to be able to hit this again. This isn't easy. And so to expect a person to do this, for 8 months, a year straight is just crazy. And so at some point in there, you might need a diet break. Just start, analyzing how you're feeling. Are you tired? Are you not losing weight anymore? You're thinking about food a lot. Frequently, you're grabbing something that isn't kind of in the diet plan. Whatever it is, headaches, things like that. Consider a diet break. That will, if you lose weight and then maintain, lose weight and then maintain, a beginner doesn't like that. They don't like those maintenance phases. But that is how a seasoned veteran, whenever it comes to dieting and cutting body fat, that's how they do it, because it gives them a break that they can then tackle the next thing. And a person who does that ends up staying down here instead of reversing that and coming all the way back up, possibly gaining even more than they originally lost. And so it is much faster to take diet breaks than it is to try and go straight through. One of my favorite analogies for this is if, me and a friend were to drive to California. I live in Missouri, so that's quite a long drive. If we were to drive to California and I drove 120 miles an hour the entire way there, and then they drove 60 miles an hour the entire way there, my favorite way was, who would make it first? And typically, sometimes half the people answer, well, you would. You're driving double as fast. But you might have caught on already. I probably wouldn't. I would either be in jail because I would have gotten arrested, or at least gotten several tickets along the way since I committed to doing that the entire way there, or I would have crashed, and my car wouldn't be, and my friend would pass me up and they would make it there. So the point is that slow and steady, as cliche as it is, really does win the race, especially when dieting and allowing yourself a little bit of a diet break.